Feel like Leclerc just about had the authority of the corner.
Well, but for Max Verstappen, who sees the checkered flag in sight, what a race for the Dutchman, who makes it 4 wins in a row in Imola. Lando Norris crosses the line in second.
The Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola delivered an excellent performance from Max Verstappen, shocking pole sitter Oscar Piastri with a bold first-lap move that changed the entire complexion of the race. Verstappen demonstrated why he is a 4-time world champion, securing his second win of the 2025 season and his 4th consecutive victory at Imola. The weekend began with McLaren appearing to hold the advantage, with Piastri claiming pole position in qualifying. The Australian Championship leader was seeking his 4th consecutive race win, which would have further cemented McLaren's dominance in Formula One. Instead, Verstappen had other plans, executing one of the most audacious overtaking maneuvers of the season that left Piastri admitting he had simply braked too early. This race not only represented a return to winning form for Verstappen, but also narrowed the championship gap significantly, bringing the defending champion back into contention after a string of McLaren successes. Let's examine how this pivotal moment unfolded and transformed the championship battle. As the lights went out at Imola, Piastri initially launched well off the line, appearing to have the perfect start from pole position. The Australian seemed in complete control as he pulled clear on the long run to the first chicane. With a track notorious for limited overtaking opportunities, many expected the race order to remain relatively stable through the opening corners. What happened next demonstrated Verstappen's exceptional racing instincts and courage. Despite not having a particularly strong start, the Dutchman identified an opportunity that few others would have attempted. The start itself wasn't particularly great, but then I was still on the outside line, basically the normal line, and I was like, well, I'm just going to try and send it around the outside. It worked really well. Verstappen explained after the race. The world champion brilliantly outbraked his McLaren rival and swept around the outside at the first corner, emerging from the Tamburello chicane with the lead. Piastri, seemingly focused on covering off Russell, who was running behind him on the inside, left just the slightest gap for Verstappen on the racing line. The Dutchman needed no second invitation, braking later than Piastri to surge around the outside of the first part of the chicane, earning himself the inside line on exit, and critically, the race lead. The crowd of 240,000 spectators at Imola roared in appreciation of this bold maneuver, recognizing they had just witnessed something special from the defending champion. The impact of securing the lead was immediately apparent. Verstappen quickly pulled out of DRS range and had established a 1.6-second advantage by lap 5. This early breathing room allowed him to control the pace and manage his tires effectively. That, of course, then unleashed our pace, because once we were in the lead, the car was good. I could look after my tires and we had very good pace today, Verstappen said, highlighting how critical that first lap move had been to his race strategy. Despite having led races earlier in the season without converting to victories, there was something different about Verstappen's performance at Imola. The Red Bull driver revealed that he initially wasn't certain whether he could maintain his advantage.
Worked out quite well for me. So I was, of course, happy to be in the lead, but I was still not entirely sure how quick we were going to be, because, of course, I was also in the lead in Miami, but we did not have a great pace there.
The difference at Imola became apparent as the race progressed. Verstappen noted that the car felt a bit nicer, a bit more controlled to drive now also in the long run, which helped him manage tire degradation better than in previous races. The Red Bull upgrades introduced for this weekend appeared to be paying dividends, particularly in the high-speed sections of the circuit. By lap 25, Verstappen had extended his lead to 9 seconds over Norris, demonstrating superior pace and tire management. The gap would continue to grow, reaching a staggering 19 seconds after the virtual safety car period. While Verstappen's opening move set the tone, the race was further shaped by key strategic decisions and safety car interventions that played crucial roles in determining the final outcome. McLaren made a pivotal call early in the race when they decided to pit Piastri at the end of lap 13. This was a reaction to what was happening behind, with Leclerc stopping on lap 10 and theoretically having undercut Norris, who had lost time battling past Russell in the early stages. This decision would prove costly for Piastri. His stop brought him out in front of Leclerc and the other early stoppers, but he found himself in traffic behind cars that hadn't yet pitted, Meanwhile, Verstappen stayed out on track with a 10-second lead over Norris, who was also extending his opening stint. The race strategy picture was completely transformed on lap 29 when Esteban Ocon pulled onto the grass in his Haas, triggering a virtual safety car period. This presented a golden opportunity for Verstappen, who had yet to make his first stop. The timing couldn't have been more perfect for the Dutchman, allowing him to pit without losing significant time. Verstappen said, "That VSC was quite handy to pit, and even on the hard compound, I think our pace was very strong." After the VSC period ended, Verstappen emerged with a substantial 19-second lead over Norris. What had been a controlled performance now looked like a dominant one, with the Red Bull driver seemingly cruising toward victory. However, the race had one more twist in store. On lap 46, home favorite Kimi Antonelli pulled off track due to an issue with his Mercedes, prompting a full safety car deployment. This erased Verstappen's comfortable advantage and bunched the field back together. Both Verstappen and Norris took the opportunity to pit for fresh tires, while Piastri stayed out due to limited tire availability. This created an intriguing scenario for the final sprint to the finish, with Piastri now ahead of Norris, but on significantly older tires. When the safety car peeled into the pits at the end of lap 53, the stage was set for a 10-lap shootout to determine the race winner. Despite having his massive lead wiped out, Verstappen showed exceptional composure with a flawless restart. "Even then on the restart, I think we managed it all really well and brought it home," Verstappen remarked, demonstrating his ability to handle pressure situations. The Dutchman quickly re-established his authority, pulling 1.5 seconds clear after just one lap. Meanwhile, the focus shifted to the battle between the McLaren teammates. Norris, on fresher tires, began to apply pressure to Piastri. For 3 laps, the McLaren drivers engaged in a tense intra-team battle. Behind the safety car, Norris had suggested that Piastri's tires looked pretty dead, and implied they should not fight if they wanted to challenge Verstappen. However, McLaren chose not to implement team orders. The inevitable pass came when Norris used his significantly newer tires to pressure Piastri before slipping through at the first chicane, the pair coming close to contact. By this point, however, Verstappen had already built a commanding lead and was well on his way to victory. Verstappen crossed the line 6.109 seconds ahead of Norris, with Piastri following in third, unable to match the pace of his teammate on fresher rubber. The victory marked Verstappen's 65th career win and second of the season, breaking Piastri's streak of consecutive victories. While Verstappen's victory took center stage, several other drivers delivered impressive performances throughout the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Notably, Lewis Hamilton produced a remarkable recovery drive from 12th on the grid to finish 4th in his first Italian race for Ferrari. The 7-time world champion benefited from an offset strategy, starting on hard tires and taking advantage of both safety car periods to gain track position.
I'm joining this already legendary and iconic team that already has an incredible legacy. I have my own legacy. They haven't won since 2007.
Lewis Hamilton has just triggered unprecedented chaos, and what's just been revealed from inside Ferrari's headquarters has sent Formula One into complete turmoil after wiping his entire Instagram clean in a shocking purge. Hamilton's explosive team radio outbursts during Miami have now escalated into open warfare. The 7-time world champion's frustrations with Ferrari's failing SF25 car have reached breaking point, culminating in an emergency meeting with Fred Vasseur that has the entire paddock speculating about a catastrophic breakdown at Maranello. Lewis Hamilton's mysterious social media purge sent shockwaves through the racing world when both he and teammate Charles Leclerc simultaneously wiped their Instagram accounts clean. Born from mounting frustrations over Ferrari's disastrous 2025 campaign, this coordinated digital blackout revolutionized speculation by suggesting internal tensions far deeper than anyone imagined. With Hamilton 90 points behind championship leader Oscar Piastri after just 6 races, and Ferrari languishing 152 points adrift of McLaren in the constructors' standings. Sources inside Ferrari revealed Hamilton's eruption during the Miami Grand Prix reached unprecedented levels. "Have a tea break while you're at it," Hamilton sarcastically snapped over team radio when strategy decisions took too long. Later, explaining, "In the end, we lost a lot of time overtaking each other. At that moment, the car felt alive and the tire was good, and I was clearly quicker. I think a decision should have been taken sooner. This public dressing down of Ferrari's strategists marked a turning point in Hamilton's relationship with his new team. What makes Hamilton's outburst particularly explosive is the timing of his unscheduled emergency meeting with team principal Fred Vasseur. Ahead of Miami, Hamilton reportedly called a sudden unscheduled meeting with Fred Vasseur to discuss strategy and performance. Insider sources confirmed the contents of that meeting remain closely guarded, but paired with the immediate social media wipeouts by both Ferrari drivers, the implications sent shockwaves through the paddock. Neither driver has spoken about it, but fans have already drawn their conclusions, noted one Ferrari insider. Jenson Button, Hamilton's former McLaren teammate, revealed the psychological toll on the British driver. "Lewis is a different character now than he was when we were teammates," Button explained to Sky Sports. Now, he's much more of a calm personality. He's much more of a rounded character. I think it is starting to hurt him a little bit, constantly being slower than his teammate. That's not how Lewis Hamilton is built. He's a winner! This damning assessment from someone who knows Hamilton intimately suggests the Ferrari dream has become a nightmare. The specific technical failures plaguing Hamilton paint a picture of systematic dysfunction at Ferrari. Rear-end instability, poor traction in low-speed corners, and inconsistent tire management have turned a promising start into a technical headache, team boss Fred Vasseur admitted. Even more devastatingly, he confessed, "We're still in the early stages with these tire compounds, and I think we're all still a bit in the dark. And I think McLaren are currently one step ahead in this area." This admission of inferiority from Ferrari's leadership has reportedly infuriated Hamilton. Ferrari's promised upgrades add insult to injury for the frustrated champion. Ferrari's major upgrades aren't expected until Silverstone, leaving Hamilton to suffer through Imola with only minimal small aero tweaks, cooling changes, and minor suspension refinements. Meanwhile, rival teams are bringing substantial packages to the European races. This timing disaster has left Hamilton feeling abandoned by a team that pursued him for years only to provide substandard equipment. The social media purge that followed Hamilton's Miami meltdown created instant viral chaos. The memes came fast, with speculation ranging from Hamilton unfollowing his dog to countdowns to a Mercedes reunion and speculation about internal friction. The coordinated nature of both Ferrari drivers clearing their accounts simultaneously suggests a deeper crisis than simple frustration. Industry insiders believe this represents the first salvo in what could become Formula One's most dramatic internal war. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff's recent comments added fuel to the speculation fire. "Imola is one of Hamilton's favorite circuits," Wolff noted pointedly, before adding the devastating qualifier, "But a favorite track means nothing when the car beneath you refuses to cooperate." This barely veiled criticism of Ferrari from Hamilton's former boss suggests Mercedes might be preparing for their star's potential return. Wolff's additional comment that he has no doubt magic is still with Ferrari driver read more like a recruitment pitch than support. The cultural adjustment issues compound Hamilton's technical frustrations. In a recent interview, he opened up about lifestyle adjustments, including resisting the infamous Italian culinary temptations, revealing struggles that extend beyond the track. For an athlete who thrives on routine and discipline, these small disruptions matter when combined with cultural shift, new team dynamics, and fan pressure. The cumulative effect has created what sources describe as Hamilton's most challenging career period. Ferrari's internal response to Hamilton's outburst reveals organizational chaos, while Vasseur publicly maintains composure, stating, "It's not an ideal start, but we're working hard. The foundation is strong. Private meetings tell a different story." The emergency summit between Hamilton and Vasseur reportedly involved heated exchanges about car development priorities, with Hamilton demanding immediate action rather than promises of future upgrades. Whether that foundation includes the faith of two world-class drivers remains to be seen, one team member admitted anonymously. The relationship dynamics between Hamilton and Leclerc add another explosive element. While there are no signs of conflict, both drivers know they're being measured against one another. Every qualifying lap, every radio message, every result. With Leclerc consistently outperforming Hamilton, finishing ahead in 5 of 6 races, the pressure on the 7-time champion intensifies daily. The synchronized Instagram purge suggests both drivers share frustrations. But Hamilton's status as the struggling newcomer makes his position particularly vulnerable. Sky Sport Italia's Vicky Piria captured Italian sentiment perfectly. The excitement was huge, but then everything kind of got worse and worse because Miami was pretty bad for Ferrari. The gap between McLaren and Lewis was a minute, so that definitely was something that Italians did not expect. This crushing disappointment from the Tifosi adds external pressure to Hamilton's internal struggles, creating a toxic environment for rebuilding confidence. Ferrari's desperate upgrade plans reveal the severity of their crisis. A report indicates Ferrari will introduce a new rear suspension late next month, designed to achieve a more extreme mechanical setup after being forced to raise ride height following Hamilton's China disqualification. However, these changes won't arrive until the Austrian Grand Prix, leaving Hamilton to endure more races in inferior machinery while rivals pull further ahead. Ferrari's outdated rear suspension highlights deeper issues, with Hamilton isolated in a struggling team. Jolyon Palmer calls them 2025's biggest letdown, noting Hamilton's continued battle with rear instability. Imola, their first home race together, is a crucial moment. Another failure could break the Ferrari-Hamilton partnership, with internal turmoil already brewing.
It is McLaren in Miami, Papaya and Piastri on top as Oscar Piastri wins the Miami Grand Prix.
The Miami Grand Prix revealed a stark reality that Max Verstappen and Red Bull have been dreading. After qualifying on pole position, Verstappen watched helplessly as the McLaren cars of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris swept past him. The 4-time world champion finished 4th, a staggering 39 seconds behind winner Piastri. Verstappen said this after the race: "If you see what McLaren does with the tires, then we are all doing something wrong." This statement represents more than frustration. It confirms Red Bull's worst fears about their 2025 campaign. The team that dominated Formula One for the past 4 years now finds itself comprehensively outpaced whenever race temperatures rise and tire degradation becomes critical. The numbers paint a concerning picture. In Bahrain, Verstappen finished over 30 seconds behind the winner, barely ahead of Pierre Gasly's Alpine. Miami's result proved equally demoralizing, with Helmut Marko estimating their pure performance deficit at 0.7 to a full second per lap. The Austrian advisor described the situation as depressing, particularly given their latest technical updates had failed to deliver expected improvements. Red Bull arrived in Miami with new floor modifications specifically for Verstappen's RB21. The team repositioned fences to energize the underfloor differently and introduced new floor edges featuring a more cambered mini wing for increased local load. Paul Monahan, Red Bull's chief engineer, expressed confidence before the race. "It's reasonably stable. We can bring it at relatively low risk because it's a sprint race." The modifications aim to address the car's fundamental balance issues that have plagued Red Bull throughout 2025. However, the floor represented general aerodynamic development rather than a targeted solution to their specific problems. Monaghan explained, "The flow stability is unchanged, so we're not fearing it to be aerodynamically unstable or anything of that nature. It can go on, and it will give us a few kilos of load, and we shall enjoy the benefits." Verstappen's assessment after the race proved more sobering. The Dutchman admitted he remained completely uncertain about the floor's effectiveness. "It's not negative in any case," he told Dutch media. "I find it very difficult to think anything about that at this track. It all feels very weird here, and the corners are all just weird. I think we'll know more when we go to Imola." The Miami circuit's characteristics prevented accurate evaluation of the upgrades. Verstappen repeatedly described the track as weird, suggesting the team would need to wait until the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix for proper assessment. This uncertainty compounds Red Bull's challenges in addressing their performance deficit. The pattern emerging across the 2025 season reveals a consistent problem. Verstappen remains competitive during qualifying sessions, securing poles at Suzuka, Jeddah, and Miami. His ability to extract maximum performance over a single lap partially masks the car's deficiencies. Andrea Stella, McLaren's team boss, confirms this dynamic. The car was easier to exploit in race simulation runs rather than on a single lap in qualifying. Once the race begins, everything changes, tire wear becomes the defining factor, and McLaren's superiority becomes apparent. Verstappen acknowledged this reality. I had nothing to lose, so I just tried to have a bit of fun out there as well at the same time. I said yesterday that I would try to do my very best, and I think we did that today, but unfortunately just didn't have the pace.